We'll get started. So, Happy New Year, everyone. As many of you that we haven't seen since 2022. So we're very happy that you're here. My name is Quentin Harrell, and on behalf of the Minority Business Alliance Executive Committee, our Vice Chair Extraordinaire, Kay Monroe, our most treasured treasurer, Alex Erpy, and our lovely long-standing chamber liaison, which we call the glue, Andrea Copeland. We welcome you all. We thank you for taking the time to be with us. We're always excited for that next opportunity to share some valuable information to you guys. The work that we do for MBA is guided by a clear vision, and it's we see a region of thriving minority owners, business owners, and professionals in our area, in our community. Our mission statement is to convene, support, and promote minority business professionals, leveraging local business and nonprofit partners to expand community wealth building. So we're all about convening, connecting, supporting, and promoting our minority business members and the community as a whole. I'd like to take a moment before we get into things is to thank all those Minority Business Alliance members and our affiliates that took the time to answer our survey that we sent out in the, was it late December or early January? Maybe late December. But that information was valuable. It greatly helped inform our recent strategic planning session that we conducted with the Spill team week before last, I think Saturday before last. And as we continue to hone our focus on how we create value for our membership, a clear impact statement emerged to guide our decisions in that session for MBA. And it's simply this: new knowledge, new communities, and new business. That's what's guiding us for serving the minority business community. So thank you once again. We thank you for joining us and welcome you to another critically important conversation for minority business professionals and the community at large. I'm grateful for our presenters of the day, Ariel Bredder, who is of the Central Virginia Small Business Development Center, which is a cornerstone for business support in our community, and my good friend Sarad Davenport of Davenport Strategic Innovations and Design, a valuable, intuitive, and process design and consulting firm in our business community. And if I've missed out anything that DSID does, Sarad will be able to share it as well as Ariel. We have a robust session of critical information for you today. We sincerely hope you all find value in that information and pose some good questions for our Q&A session that comes afterwards. The information is critical because it's all about business wellness and checking in and assessing your business model and what you're doing in your business. MBA has generated a significant amount of goodwill and energy around grant making and providing grant funds to our with our partners, as well as tapping our own funds of the MBA to provide funding for businesses. But it's critically important and it's very a passion of ours to make sure that our business community is being financially capable and financially literate on how to look at their numbers and see what's going on and make decisions based on your financial statements. So I'm very excited about the information that Ariel is going to share and also Sarad. So without further ado, I'll open up and pass the microphone to Ariel Bredder from the SBDC.
Hello, thank you so much, Quentin, for that. And just thank you everyone for showing up. Knowing your numbers is so important. And I know if you are a business owner or managing a business, numbers aren't always the fun part. That's not why you started, but it is something that you need to know in order to move forward with your business. Oops. All right. Can you all see my screen? Just want to make sure. I know we tested it, but awesome. And just to give you guys a little overview, of SBDC, in case you don't know about us, we are the Small Business Development Center. We are located, we have an office here in Charlottesville and another office in Culpeper, and we serve Charlottesville and Albemarle and then 9 surrounding counties. And they support us in our venture, and so does the SBA, and we are hosted by the Community Investment Collaborative. They are a CDFI here, and their mission is to support underrepresented businesses, and they have loan programs, and you can get microloans of up to 50,000. So I want to shout out to them, but you guys probably already know about them because Alex is here. But we are hosted by them, and I'll have their info at the end as well. But today, some of the things that we are going to talk about is, your business requirements, like the basic requirements that you need. Talk about your goals for your business, knowing your numbers, improving your cash flow, and then putting it all together. And so some of the basic requirements that you need for your business is to have a separate bank account. You do not want to mix your business and your personal stuff. So if you are in business, you want to make sure that you have a separate bank account. You want to keep everything separate. And you want to have a good relationship with professionals like a local bank. We recommend going with a local bank. So that way, if you all are searching for loans or just, need access to capital, you have that relationship already in place. And, if you are banking with Wells Fargo or Bank of America, they may not be the best fit for small businesses because they're not really going to give you the time of day. That's why we say go with local. You also want to have an accountant that is there, especially around tax time, but that you can ask them questions. Here at the SBDC, we offer one-on-one business advising, and we can advise you in certain things. And we do have experts, that are in bookkeeping, but we can't really advise you, and every industry is different. So it's recommended that you reach out to an accountant and find an accountant that is in your industry or knows a little bit about small business so that they are serving you in the best way. And also you want to have an insurance agent, making sure that all of your business liabilities are covered. Again, someone that knows about small businesses or your industry. And then a lawyer if you are writing up any contracts, or if you are, more than a single member, sole proprietor or LLC. If you have partners involved, it's good to have a lawyer to write up contracts and agreements. That is, taken care of. And again, having a business advisor. And don't think I mentioned yet, but SBDC, we do offer free of charge one-on-one business advising. So we are here for you. And we also offer a variety of events and training to help you along the way. And then you'll also want to make sure that you are properly registered with your city or county. Every city or county is different. So you want to check with them about what business license you may or may not need. Some industries may not need a business license. So you want to confirm on that. And then if you are doing professional services, you may need a professional license. So you'll want to check with the Virginia Department of Professional and Occupational Regulation to make sure you've got the right licensure in place. And then make sure if you are more than a sole proprietor, like if you're an LLC or a corporation, that you are registered with the SEC, the State Commission Corporation, and you have to file that annually. And so you also want to be sure of how often you have to file certain things, like your business license is an annual thing that you've got to renew, and same with professional licenses and that SEC. Some other requirements to think about is your business personal property tax. Again, it depends on what city or county you're in, but typically if you are running a business and you have any machinery or equipment, anything that you use for your business, you will be it's taxable, and so you will have to file that and pay it every year. If you are selling some products, you'll have to think about sales tax. Typically, it is filed by the 20th of every month. Sometimes it might be quarterly. If you are not, selling enough, they might adjust it to be quarterly sales tax. So again, you just want to make sure that you are thinking about that and have that covered. And then in order to make sure you don't have a big tax payment, in April every year, that you can file quarterly estimated tax payment. I am not a tax professional, so I can't super advise you on that, but I want you to be aware of that, as that it is an option, but you can work with your accountant on setting that up, or look at the IRS as well. And then like the biggest thing to have is an accounting system, whether it's a spreadsheet or like online software like Wave. And with Wave, that there's free options, so you can use that, or you can graduate to QuickBooks, or there's other programs out there to help you record all of your sales transactions, your expenses. You want to have an accounting system in place so that you have a record of everything, so that when it comes to tax time, that you are all set, or that you just, if you're ever audited, you've got everything together. You want to be sure to, take notes of everything. If you're buying equipment, that you make note of what it is, because that will also help you when it comes to filing and paying your personal property tax. And all of this, I know it's kind of boring and you're like, I didn't sign up to do this and I don't want to do my accounting, but I think it is so important for you all to know basic accounting and basic reports that you will need, because whether you are going to grow and have someone do it for you, you still want to be able to look at all of these things and have a good understanding. So I like to think about like, what are your goals? Because none of this financial wellness matters if you don't have a goal in place, and none of the numbers really matter if you don't have a goal in place, because what are you tracking? But think about your goals for this year. Are you trying to bring in a certain income or a certain amount of sales? Are you trying to grow and expand and hire a new employee, or maybe go into a new market? If you're working out of your house, are you trying to open up a storefront or an office building, or do you want to switch to selling online? Or are you trying to receive, grants or additional funding? Like, really think about those things so that you can keep that goal in mind as you're doing this like financial wellness check. And why know your numbers? Again, it's kind of boring. You're not, for me, I do have a bookkeeping background, so like I think all this stuff is really cool, but you guys are probably like, no. But it's important to know your numbers so that you can make those decisions, so that you can see if your business is going to be profitable, so that you can go ask for loans and get capital, and see what you make sure your business is in compliance and what you need to do. And I love this visual because our businesses, they start off as like a seed, but they grow. And like for every stage, most businesses, if they stop, making money and having that cash flow, they are unable to grow. So that's another reason why it's so important to know your numbers, so that you can, go through that startup phase, go through the growth and grow to get established and expand. Like at every stage of this, you're going to need more financing, and you're going to need to know your numbers to make sure that you can grow. And so some reports that I want to talk about, and I'll show you some of these more in depth, but I think that they are really helpful. First, it is so important to know your own personal budget and have a personal finance statement, because you want to know how much money you need to take care of your household, make sure your own bills are being paid. And like, especially if you aren't really sure about your goals for your business, I think that this is a great place to start to know, is my business going to support my household and the lifestyle that I'm trying to live? So going through a personal finance statement is really helpful to know how much you need to bring home. And then I'm going to share with you guys about a break-even analysis. This is really helpful because it kind of shows you how many units you need to sell in order to break even. And break even is when like all of your income and taking out all the expenses is net zero. So if you can get to that point, after that, it's going to be all profit. So doing this break even analysis is really important to know if your product or service is actually feasible. And then profit and loss statement, I think, is a really key report to look at, because it really shows how much money is coming in and out of your business and what your net income from sales actually is. You want to see if you're making money. That's the whole point of business. And then balance sheet, it shows your assets that equal your liabilities and equity. Your assets are what your entity actually owns, like the cash that you have on hand, the equipment, your accounts receivable. This is like the things that you can that are liquid, that if you need money right away, that you can use from your business. But your liabilities are what your entity actually owes. Like if you have any credit card debt, or if you have loans, your accounts payable, and then your equity is the net worth of your business, is what you are actually putting into your business and what the net income is. And then we like to say that your cash flow is your ability to sleep at night, because it's when you have cash coming in and you have more cash coming in than money going out, you have a positive cash flow, and that's your ability to sleep at night, that you're not worried about all of your expenses and everything. So I want to show you this example of a break-even analysis and what involves in a break-even analysis. And so you want to think about your indirect costs on a monthly basis, like what is the cost of your rent or your vehicles? And then again, like if you are thinking about how much money you want to bring home, that would be like you put your salary in there, and any utilities that would cost, like things that indirectly affect the cost of the product or service you're doing. And then think about for the direct cost, that's going to be the things that actually go into producing the product. So for here, it was like a mobile stereo company. And so they had that, thinking about the direct cost of it, it was like the cost of the stereo, the wiring supplies that you need, the car cleaning supplies, and then, someone's got to do it. So what is their commission? Or think about, if you are to have an employee, how much are you paying them, and what is their rate to kind of create one unit? So with this report, it's showing that, for a month, the indirect cost is $8,605. And then the total direct cost for one unit is $99.50. And so if they sell their product for $250, then they need to sell 57 of those installations to be profitable. And so this is really important to do. So if you have not done a break-even analysis, highly recommend, and we are here to help you if you need more insight on that. But this can show you, if I have to sell 57 of those, do I actually have the time to do it? Do I have the capacity to do it? Do I want to do it? And if not, it's very insightful, because maybe you need to up your price, or maybe see if you can decrease the cost of your expenses, or maybe you just need to rethink of, is this actually going to be worth it? A lot of our clients think they have an idea, but then when they see this, it's really eye-opening of like, I don't know if I want to do that. So you can either look at it as based on the price, or you could look at it as like the number of units. Like, okay, I'm able to do 75 installations a month. So then the price would need to be, at least $214.23. Like, it's just a different way that you can kind of look at it to get a different perspective on how much you need to do to break even. So that is a very cool report to do. And then when it comes to your profit and loss statements are really insightful. As I said earlier, it shows what your what you're bringing in from your sales and what your expenses are. I really like these reports because you can look at your report by month, by year, or by quarter, and you can compare. Like for January, you could compare it to, how am I doing in January versus January of last year, or versus December, or whatever. But it's really important to see and use these reports, because you can see how your sales are doing over the year, how they did, over the quarter. And if something changed, do you need to reevaluate? You can look at like the sales for each product to see, okay, this product is my money maker, or this product didn't sell as well as I had thought it did, or it didn't sell as well as it did last year. It can give you a lot of information on how you're doing. And then same with like your cost of goods sold. That's the items that it takes to produce your product. And so, with looking at your cost of goods sold or your expenses, you can really examine, like, am I spending too much on these things? Could I reduce my expenses? Have expenses gone up? Or, you can just really notice trends when you're looking at your profit and loss statements. And of course, are you making a profit? At the bottom of the profit and loss, you'll always see about what your net income was, which is the revenue minus the expenses. And that's if you have a profit or not. And this logo I put down here is Profit Sense. And I wanted to bring that up because at SBDC, we have access to a lot of cool tools that offer a lot of research. And one of our tools is Profit Sense. And with that tool, we can actually see industry data on what typical profit and loss statements look like. So if you have a profit and loss statement, we can compare it to the industry standard to see if everything's on track, or if maybe you're spending too much. Like let's say the industry standard on rent was like 50% of the expense, but you're spending like 60% on your rent. Maybe we need to readjust something, or maybe that's not normal, or just kind of see what could be more normal for your industry. So I wanted to share that and bring that up. When you work with us, we can work with you through these tools. The balance sheet is the other report. And then when you are using software like Wave or QuickBooks or whatever else you may use, those software systems, they help you create these balance sheets and profit and loss and cash flow statements that I'm about to show you. So it's like it's really easy to pull these reports and be able to review them. And like I said earlier, it's like you want to pay attention to these reports and know what's going on, even if you pass them along to someone else to do your bookkeeping or accounting. You want to be able to look at the numbers and understand them and what's going on. So your balance sheet is what shows like the cash in your bank account, your accounts receivable, the inventory that you might have. And then it also shows like the loans that you owe and your accounts payable and any credit card debt. And looking at your balance sheet is really important to kind of give you some insights. One, thinking about accounts receivable, do you have like a huge outstanding accounts receivable? Like, do you need to contact some of your customers and follow up on them actually paying you? Or do you need to see if you can pay off some of your credit cards sooner if you've got a huge balance there, like what that looks like. But one of the things that's pretty cool about the balance sheet is you can look at your working capital, and your working capital is your current assets minus your current liabilities. And if that's a positive number, then that means that your business can fund everything that it is currently working on and actually invest in future activities to help your business grow. But if it's a negative balance, then that means that you do not have enough current assets, things that you can, turn into cash that you actually own to pay for your liabilities. So there's it's imbalanced there. There's a problem. We need to readjust so that you have more assets and reduce your liabilities. And, that's something that we can kind of help you look at and understand a little bit further. And then on the balance sheet at the bottom is always going to be your retained earnings. And that is the amount of net income that is left over. So it's again, kind of just like showing how much money that your business actually has and that you can put back into the business. And it always just kind of adds up from period to period, because your balance sheet is like a snapshot of how your business is doing on a particular day. Whereas and you can still compare it to previous periods and stuff. Yeah. And then your cash flow statement is where it all comes together with your operating activities that were on your profit and loss statement. And then those investing activities, that's if you were to purchase or sell your assets, and any debt and equity that shows up on your balance sheet. It kind of puts it all together. And again, shows how much cash that you have to work with. And I said earlier about, a positive cash flow is your ability to sleep at night, because it's if you have a positive cash flow, that really means that after you have, done everything for the cost of selling your product and the money that it brings in, and taking care of all of those assets and liabilities, that you still have money that you can work with. So knowing that and seeing that you have that positive cash flow is really important. And so, I showed you all these reports. And so it's interesting of all right, well, what do I do with all of these things? I've reviewed these reports and they don't really mean it too much to me, but they do provide a lot of insight on how you can make decisions in your business to move forward. So some ways to improve your cash flow, because your cash flow is, your income minus your expenses. How can you improve those things? So when you think about your income stream, depending on if you're just selling a product or a good, you're probably going to exchange it immediately. So someone's gonna, you give them the product, they give you money. But if you're doing more of a service-based industry, there might be different ways that you can set up some terms. So rather than like they'll pay you, in 30 days, or like if you work with them every month, but they pay you every month, there are some ways that you can, you could set up the contract so they pay you up front, or they pay you 50% up front, or whatever, to help you bring in money, especially, if you need that money now. It helps to kind of, you want to like hold on to your money as long as possible, and bring in as much as possible. And then you can also look at like your products and services from that profit and loss, see what products and services are selling really well, which ones aren't doing so well, evaluate that. Like, do you need to have all these products and services, or should you just focus on one that's like producing a lot of money, or giving you, the most profit? And then also review your pricing, from that break-even analysis. Depending on what information that gave you, you may need to up your prices so that you can, have more money and break even quicker without having to sell so many units or so many services. That might be something that you want to review. Or you might have to think about like, all right, well, what other markets could I enter? If I want to expand or grow, seeing how your products are doing, will help give you some insight on, all right, well, where can I take this product next? So just those are some ways to help, you grow your income stream. And then you also want to review your expenses. And so like just the same way you can set up terms with your customers, you can also set up terms with your suppliers. So if you buy, if you have a vendor that you purchase from and they typically want their money up front, see if you can create some terms with them of, can we set up net 10 or 15 or net 30 days? That means that you have 30 days to pay them. So that way, if you are collecting, supplies to create your product, that you don't have to pay them right away. So then you can, sell some things so that you have enough money to then pay your supplier later. And then you may also be interested in receiving some quotes. Like if you're looking at your profit and loss and you see like, oh man, every, month, my utilities keep getting more expensive. Maybe you need to see if you can, work with another supplier. I know that I did, one of my clients for bookkeeping, they were spending a lot on, their trash pickup service. And so we reached out to another trash, pickup service, and they were actually lower. So we were able to save some costs that way. So think about your utilities. And I'm sure you guys, I also do it with like Comcast. They're always raising their prices and I have to call them and be like, can you bring me back down? And they're like, okay, because they want to keep you. The same could happen with some of your vendors that you work with for your business. So think about that. And then also, think about any like unused subscriptions you're using. I know that there's so many things out there to help you with your business that you may try, and like you're on like a free trial, but then you get busy and, it comes up. But you can kind of see when you're reviewing your reports, what are some things that you're not really using or that you could cut back on. So again, just thinking about how you can bring in more money and, put less of it out there. And then also you want to think about those industry trends that may be typical for your business. Like maybe it's every spring is slow, so I got to account for that. And you can see when you're looking at those statements, if that trend is true for you, and plan for it. So if it is that the spring is always slow, how can you plan for it in advance so that you have enough money so that your bills will still be taken care of before the spring hits, so that you're not like going to be in debt for a period of time because you're just like, oh, that's how the season is. You can really plan for it and see how you can accommodate these trends. Or again, review like what products and service you offer, see how you might be able to like pivot during those off seasons, see what you can do with the information that you have to make some better decisions. And then again, just to put it all together, you want to make sure that your business is properly set up, and you want to make sure that you are aware of all the monthly and quarterly and annual license and filings and registrations that you have, depending on like what your industry is, where your business is located. It's all a little bit different. So really, find out what those dates and deadlines are so that you can be on top of the things, because the last thing you want is to get a bill like a couple years later, because they will find you like you owe this much money. So make sure you're on top of those things. Set your goals for the year and whatever feels good for you. It does not have to be what's typical for other businesses. It could just be that you want to open this year, but also think about what would it look like for your business to be successful, and really set those goals and think about how you can use these financial statements to help you and track those goals. Because if you're reviewing your financial statements monthly, you can see, am I on track for these goals? Am I able to hire that new employee? Is it time for me to go after a loan? Like, do I have my stuff together to move forward? And if your numbers don't match your goals, what can you do to adjust or to pivot? And don't feel like, please reach out for help. There's so many great organizations that are here to support you. We are one of them with our business advising services. And as I mentioned earlier, we are hosted by the CIC. They're also here to help you with the different services that they offer. But that's it for me. Hopefully it wasn't too boring.
No. I enjoyed every minute of it, Ariel. But I will say this. Thank you so much. That was a chock full of information. Very critical information. Sister Cooper, you probably need to.
I'm going to mute her.
Okay, thank you very much. But glad you're here, Sister Cooper. But Ariel, very important information you share. And as you were just talking about sharing all the things, one thing that just came to mind, that we gotta make numbers cool again. Just like we talk about making school cool for kids, for some young folks, we gotta make numbers cool again. Like maybe we can hire Sarad at some point later down when you get some money to create a sizzle reel for a video for making numbers cool, because it is the critical piece of our businesses. We can work, we can hustle, scrap. But if we're not monitoring our numbers and staying in compliance and making sure that we're developing those relationships with the professionals as well as those authorities where we do business, like going to see if you're in the food business, going to make friends with the health department. I'm probably still in the thunder of my wife, who's on the call as well. Going to speak with Albemarle County, those people that provide licensing and zoning. All those things are super, super important. So thank you so much for sharing that. I have a ton of questions, but I want to open up the floor for any questions or comments before we move on with Sarad. Any questions or comments?
Can I just make one comment, Q?
Sure, Frankie, baby.
I think that was excellent. You really did a great job summarizing, again, for many people who've been in business, but even those aren't, that was really well done. I think for me, the biggest question about numbers, especially in today's world of American capitalism, is how much is enough? You get companies that say, well, we only cleared 14% profit this year, and we didn't meet the 18% goal. And I just comment to my business friends all the time about, where's that balance between paying a decent wage for an employee versus making enough money to keep the company running versus keeping the utilities. It's all about balance. And sometimes I feel like when we're so focused on a percentage bottom line that didn't hit 22%, but only hit 18%, we're missing the whole point of being in business. The whole point, in my mind, is to always, at least, even if it's a penny, be in the black 1 cent more than you're in the red. Everything else is wonderful. But I just comment on that because it's a strange world where companies complain that they don't make enough. And at the same time, the employees maybe are barely making a wage to keep that company going. And it's all about balance. So there's no need to go any further, but it's just an observation from an old guy.
I mean, I'll just say thank you for bringing that up, because I think that is a real thing, especially, if you were to Google, like, what's a good profit margin, and it's there, but like, what does that mean? And again, that's why I think it's so important to establish the goals for yourself. And even, especially like as you're starting a business, doing that personal finance statement for yourself and knowing how much you personally need to take home. And you can include, like, if you are starting to grow and you're like, oh, I want to include in my budget vacation and stuff like that, and like, know that that's fine, but you've got to know how much, you want to start with. And then again, like, using these numbers, you can make a budget for your business. So that way that you are prepared and know how much money you typically need month to month so that you're taken care of. But again, it really is like, what is your goal? Because some of our businesses we work with, they're like, I just want to like make a little extra money, or I want to replace my full-time gig. But then you've got other businesses that are like, oh, we want to grow and go international and global. But if that's not your path, that's fine. So yeah, it really is whatever you personally want and feel good about too. So thank you.
That's a great point, Frank. I always say the goalpost is always moving. Your goals from today are never going to be the same for your goals tomorrow or 2 years from now. So that's a great point.
Yeah, that's so important. I think sometimes even for ourselves, I'll often see people who will say like, yeah, I'm going for a 5% profit margin, and then I'll help them look at their numbers. And I'm like, you're not paying yourself. Like, your profit margin is irrelevant. You're not even including your own salary in here. So that's why I think to Ariel's cash flow statement is just really so important, because if you're, if there's no actual cash coming in, it doesn't really matter whether your profit is 30% or 1%. Like, are you actually able to continue being in this business? So that's a great point. Ariel, one question I did have that I wanted to ask was, I know a lot of times I'll talk to people that it's challenging to even get to the point where you've got the right data for the financial statements. What kind of advice do you have for people to sort of get organized in terms of, okay, how do I record these expenses? How do I make sure I'm capturing everything? What have you seen people use to make sure they're capturing all the data about their business that they need to put into that financial statement?
Yeah, and that is such a good question, because I think the other problem that businesses can run into is, like, especially if they are, well, let me say this is why it's so important to have a separate business, like banking account, checking account, so that way all of your things are flowing in and out of that account so that you have the best record for it. If you have not been doing that and need to go back, like, start doing that. But that's why it's so important to use an accounting system so that you can just enter in everything and take really good notes of like what it is. But really, that the bare minimum is have that separate business checking account. Yeah. Does that answer the question, or?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Amen. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question, Ariel.
Yeah.
So I think in business, it's all about making money. It's all about saving money, and it's all about giving money back to the community. I know you address how to make money. Do you address how to save money, and then when you have a little left over to give back to the community that helped you establish this business?
Yeah. And when you say save money, are you talking about like having like an actual like business savings account?
I'm talking about a IRA or a SEP account, which Alex is very familiar with. He's nodding his head. There's a plug for you, Alex.
Yeah.
But saving for your future, saving for your kids, saving for your grandkids, and retirement.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as far as actually having a plan in place, Alex or someone else can definitely speak more to that. But as far as like just being able to set aside money, I think that's where it really comes in to, knowing how much it is that you want to. So in addition to like having your personal finance and having those numbers put in there, this is how much that I want to save or need to save, so that that is a part of what you will be taking home. And then same with the giving back as well. Decide of like, if you want to give back, 10% of your net profit or your profit, I think it just is like deciding what that's going to be. And planning for it to make it happen. Again, kind of looking at those numbers, what you can do, what makes sense, and making it a part of your budget so that it can happen.
Well, I'm so
Wonderful question, Eddie. Wonderful.
I'm so loving this discussion. Any other questions, we'll have you enter them on the chat, and Alex will be looking out for that. But we should move on to our good friend Sarad. And one of the things that came up in this conversation, and it made me think about when I was my early life in business, and embracing using QuickBooks and running financial statements. And I used to see so many negative numbers, negatives in the profit and loss statement, negative in the cash flow, just negative numbers, or it comes up in red in some reports, the red numbers, and it can really dishearten you on actually continuing to do it. So, but that's where looking at strategy and looking and finding resources that can help you with strategy comes in. Ariel has alluded to it in her presentation, and now I want to open the floor for Sarad, because Sarad has created an interesting assessment product that we all need to know about. So Sarad, the floor is yours.
Great, thanks. And thanks, Ariel. And that information was amazing, and everybody needs to pay attention to it. Glad to be here today. Thanks for the invite. I served on the CIC loan application committee for several years also. So I've read a lot of business plans and approved most of the loans that came to our desk. So I have some experience on that side of the wall also. My first accounting software was Peachtree. I don't know if you remember. I think they changed the name now. So Peachtree. And I was telling someone yesterday, I've had an LLC or a business, even in addition to if I was working also since, I don't know, 2001, when I first graduated from college. I was like, one of the first things I did, it was right after 9/11. It was hard for kids out of college to get jobs. So had to make some money somehow. So, so that was one of the things I did. But I want to be mindful of time. I know I got about 10, 15 minutes. So I want to share with you all an innovation that I created out of necessity. What I found over the years in my work is that I have an affinity, a gift. I found that I have a gift for administration and operations. Some of you may know I was the founding director of the Promised Neighborhood in Charlottesville, ended up going up to DC, working for the National Office of Communities and Schools. And I worked on organizational health and performance there for nonprofit organizations throughout the country. So operations became my thing. Then I, started working for a consulting firm in Richmond, and I became VP of operations there. So a lot of this came out of necessity. And I just want to share just a short video, and then I'll go into the actual product. And it's going to align well with Ariel. A lot of the things that you talked about will come up in this assessment that I'm going to share. You might hear my dog in the background, so apologize for that. All right. Let me see, share. Short video.
Absolutely sure that. Have you ever wondered how your business operations were performing? Do you want to be absolutely sure that your processes and systems are working effectively and that those processes are translating to your bottom line? Listen, when your business is running effectively and you have operational excellence, then you are going to add more value to your business and ultimately make more money. DSID presents the OPX dashboard. This dashboard is an internal assessment tool that will measure your company or organization's performance on key performance indicators on compliance, grounds and property management, intellectual property, financial operations, human resources, technology, business strategy, and service delivery. It's simple. On a regular basis, just input your responses into the assessment and watch your operational performance populate in the dashboard. This quantitative analysis will give you the tools to stay on top of your business and will consistently demonstrate operational excellence. What are you waiting for? Click the link below and begin your journey creating operational excellence for your business or organization with the OPEX dashboard by DSID.
All right, so that's a little sizzle reel for folks. And now I'll get into kind of the nuts and bolts of the actual product. So it's a dashboard and it's an internal assessment, and it
Financials.
my YouTube kept going. Let's see here. Back.
A little background music could have been cool, you know, while you present.
Well, actually, you know, the funny thing is I have a course. So I have a course also on creating a clothing brand. So if you're ever interested in that also, and you know, you can check out my website for that too. But back to the dashboard. So this dashboard measures different domains, and I'll get into the background of the dashboard. And what we have is an alpha version, kind of getting into a beta version, whereas you kind of input your accomplishment along this checklist that aligns a lot with what Ariel talked about. And we'll go through the checklist in just a second, but it actually puts out a quantitative report in this dashboard that shows you how you're doing in the different domains, such as, you know, finance, intellectual property, human resources, technology, strategy. And the idea is that everybody, depending on where you are in the continuum of your business, where you are in your growth and development, that you may not need a particular domain to start, but you'll grow into it. But all of the domains are present. And so in this alpha version, it is it's a digital assessment that can be used in Excel, Google files, and other files, spreadsheet files that you can download and use. Now the more advanced version is in production now. It's almost finished, and it's actually software. So you'll be able to have an account and to download it and work in these different domains and do self-assessment of your business. So let me go to the self-assessment so you can see the actual domains. All right, so domains for self-assessment are business compliance. And so you might not be able to see this because it's very small, and I'll read out some of it to it. So one of the domains is business compliance. And some of the things that Ariel talked about, the company has a legal professional on staff or contracted. Now, within the actual assessment, if you click yes here, say let's click no. So if we go back to our dashboard, then it will automatically process that within the dashboard and give you a snapshot of kind of where you are. The idea is overall that your assessment in each domain would get you up to 100%, but this will allow you to kind of check in where you are at different places within the operation, within your operation. And like I said, this was actually something that came out of necessity, because there were a few organizations that I came into and I was like, things were all over the place. And it's like, how do you get things aligned and in order, and in what domains are, you know, do these things kind of sit in, and how do you make sure you're checking them off on a cyclical basis or an interval that makes sense so that you can always stay compliant? And the hypothesis is that if you use this checklist and you stay compliant in all of these areas, then you're going to have operational excellence. Like if you're covering all of these domains, then you're going to have operational excellence. And I'll just go through a few more of the domains and look at some of the things that are in them, like, property. You have insurance for a commercial property. I remember also having to manage buildings, and I had to, if it snowed, I had to make sure I had a snow removal person. I had to have a cleaning company. I had to have all of those things within to maintain the property, and that's a particular domain in the assessment. Intellectual property. I just recently went through the process of getting something trademarks, but sometimes you may have innovations. Do you have an attorney that can support you in getting things trademarked, copywritten, and do you have proper protection of your intellectual property? Do you have those things in place? And I think that people need to do that more and more. I think we need to lean into that more and more, because as you're creating your businesses, you're also creating innovations that can be useful. And if you're not looking at that as a domain to monitor, then you could potentially be losing like perpetual revenue for the long term. Finance, of course, finance professional on staff. I have a CPA, so don't sleep. Get you a CPA and somebody to make sure that you're staying compliant. I learned the hard way on quarterly tax payments. So I learned the hard way big time, because the first couple of years of business, I was reporting a loss, and then I started to become profitable. And then you mess around in that, when it comes April 15th and you got this big bill and you're like, ouch. So make sure you get an accountant, and this assessment will, kind of, interrogate you on all of those things with regards to finances. Sometimes when we're small, we don't need to build out human resources so much, but as you continue to grow, these are things you can lean into. Having an HR professional, either contracted or on staff. Some people have HR professionals contracted. There's actually, some kind of out of the box HR things that you can purchase these days if you want to kind of maintain a lean operation. So, but just making sure that domain is covered. Technology, in particular around technology, are standard operating procedures. As you're bringing contractors in or employees in, making sure that there is a consistent, there are consistent behaviors that you want to see with use of technology or, accomplishing things. So that's a domain. Strategy. I think that everyone needs a business plan and at least a 3 to 5 year strategic plan and with financial projections. So like, do you have that in place? And it's not to say that you're gonna, I guess people don't eat elephants, but what's the biggest, the easiest way to eat an elephant one bite at a time. So over the course of a 12-month period, it would be ideal to really get these things accomplished so that you can get to that 100%. But some people's cyclical maybe quarterly. You may want to check in on this quarterly, or choose particular domains that you're going to do throughout the year to make sure at the end of the year you're compliant in every way. And the last is service delivery. Clear list of products and services with associated prices. I'm telling you, this is like one of the things that is so confusing and slows processes down when you don't have products, a consistent list, especially if you're employing others to be able to sell your service or your products and you don't have a consistent list and things change all the time. There has to be a process for those changes, and also making sure that those things are in place. So these are the different domains. And like I said before, all you have to do is like go in here and change the status of it. There's a section for notes, and then it automatically updates on the dashboard. I was saying this kind of alpha/beta version. It is a spreadsheet dashboard format, but we're working on the software, finalizing the software. So that'll come out soon. And I say that this innovation was done out of necessity as a way to like help me with my day-to-day. And then I've implemented that into everything that I do now as far as assessments. It's kind of like my way of thinking. I'm always trying to find out, how to systematize things, systematize operations, so that I stay on top of it. And this is also, and I see there's a hand, this is also something that can be flexible and modified. So there may be things you want to add in or take out to make sure that it is customized to your particular business operation. So I'll stop there. I could have said a bunch more, but I want to stop there because I think I covered enough, and I just wanted to kind of, I think I was a compliment to what Ariel was talking about.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
So can you, with this software, can you compare to competitors in like a specific industry where your scoring or metrics aligns? Or how
Not yet.
you're doing?
Not yet, but that's the idea, is to begin, especially once we get the enterprise software going, we will be able to begin to collect data across industries, right? And service lines. But like with a spreadsheet, we can do that upon request. But when the enterprise software is launched, then we'll definitely be able to compare across industries for different users and things of that nature. But great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would say that was a fantastic question as well. It was one of mine, Yanni. So thank you for asking it. As you look through the list of items and the domains, some of those things you could look at them and be overwhelmed, like, oh man, I don't do none of that, but they're all there is something in each domain that can apply to your business. And so I look at it, when you go through that list, you can come up with an actual goal setting plan just by looking at that list. As Ariel mentioned about setting goals, I look at that list as a way that you can actually start setting goals, and it can actually help you think about some things that you may not have thought about in your business. So I really appreciate you taking the time, Sarad, to share. Hopefully that there are more questions. We definitely want to open up the floor for questions for both Sarad and Ariel. But I just want to encourage everyone to just make sure that you realize that there are resources in this community that you need to leverage. And typically, when you're in a business, you leveraging resources can have a significant cost to it. We have partners in our network that are providing resources that are very manageable in cost, if not free. And free 99 is a wonderful thing. So please take advantage. Ask the questions here, and we're here to make sure that you're getting connected to the right entities, the right people, the right professionals. Question, comments?
I'll add one thing, Quentin. So, my work in business lately has been to help startups. I realize that I've just got an affinity for helping startups to become successful, and I have a track record in that. And so some of the rudiments of startup, especially around branding. Now, my background, I have lots of background in branding and development and, conceptualization. And I think that's a big piece of it. And so putting it all together, branding and operations around startup is what can help a launch. So I just want to give that as context to how I show up in this space.
Thank you for sharing that, Sarad. And Sarad is going full time with DSID as a business. So I encourage any of you, because I've sat down and talked with Sarad for over the years, for many years, and he has a vast wealth of knowledge and an intuitive way on which he approaches it in building and helping support businesses. So I encourage you to get in contact with him, if it's only just to pick his brains and learn about the services that he'll be providing in his business.